The prince found the peasant girl in the storm and froze when he saw his mother's ring in her hand. Before we begin this beautiful period romance story, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love knowing where you're joining me from. The wind had teeth that night. It tore through the Carpathian trees, shrieking across the frozen ridges like a wild beast. Snow fell in thick sheets, erasing all shapes, all direction. The prince's carriage, grand and black-lacquered, had become nothing but a shadow sliding toward ruin. "Halt!" Prince Friedrich shouted above the roar, but the driver could not hear him. The horses screamed as the wheels skidded on ice. A sharp crack followed, a wheel snapping, then the sudden lurch of weight. The world tilted. The carriage rolled once, twice, and came to rest on its side in a ditch, the doors crushed against snow and rock. Friedrich forced himself out through the splintered frame, coughing, dazed. He could feel blood running warm down his temple. The storm swallowed every sound, except the wind. His guards' voices were gone. Even the horses had vanished. He called once, then again, but no answer came. Only the endless white hiss of the blizzard. He wrapped his coat tighter and began to walk. His boots sank deep, each step heavier than the last. He knew there was a royal lodge somewhere near this valley, but the path had disappeared beneath the snow. His breath came out in short bursts. The wound on his head blurred his sight. Then he saw it, a faint glow between the trees, distant but steady. A house, perhaps. He stumbled toward it, guided by that flicker of light as though it were the last candle in the world. Branches scratched his face. The cold clawed through his gloves. His legs buckled once, but he pushed on. The light grew brighter, warm against the gray night. A small cottage stood ahead, its roof bowed with snow, smoke curling from a chimney that barely held against the wind. He reached the door and knocked weakly. It opened after a moment, revealing a girl no older than 20. She held a candle, its flame trembling. Her clothes were plain, patched, her face pale from the cold, but her eyes, clear, startled blue, met his with a courage that startled him. "Please," he said, his voice rough. "I need shelter, just until the storm passes." She looked him over quickly, saw the blood on his temple, and stepped aside. "Come in. You will freeze out there." He crossed the threshold. The air inside was thin but warmer. A small fire burned in the hearth, nearly out. She hurried to feed it, adding what little wood she had. "Sit," she said softly, pulling a stool closer to the flames. "You are hurt." "It is nothing," he muttered, though his head throbbed. He sank into the seat, every limb shaking. The girl disappeared into a corner and returned with a cloth. "Hold still." She cleaned the cut with gentle hands, dipping the cloth into a bowl of melted snow. Her touch was steady. She moved with quiet confidence, though she spoke little. "You live here alone?" he asked. "I do. My father was a woodcutter. He died last spring." "And no one comes to see you?" She gave a small shrug. "The road is far. The village farther still." He looked around the tiny room. One table, one chair, a bed of straw near the hearth, a few books on a shelf. Unusual for a peasant. "You can read?" he said, surprised. "My father taught me," she replied simply. He said words keep a person warm when the world turns cold. The fire caught, brightening the room. Friedrich removed his gloves and reached toward the flames. He had never been in a place so humble. Yet there was a strange peace in it, the sound of crackling wood, the faint smell of herbs drying from the rafters. "Thank you," he said. "You have saved my life." She shook her head. "No. The storm will pass soon. Then you will be well enough to go." He smiled faintly. "You seem certain of that." "I have lived through many storms, sir. They end when you stop fearing them." Her tone was calm, almost soothing. Something in it stirred a distant memory, though he could not place it. The way she spoke, soft but unwavering, reminded him of someone long gone. The candlelight caught the edges of her face. There was grace there, unpolished but undeniable. Her hair was braided loosely, her hands red from work. When she noticed him studying her, she turned away and busied herself with the kettle. "You should drink," she said, pouring water into a wooden cup. "It is only snowmelt, but it will help." He took the cup, noticing the faint tremor in her fingers. "What is your name?" "Annalisa." "Annalisa," he repeated as though testing the sound. "You are not afraid of strangers?" She looked at him again, and for a heartbeat her expression shifted. "I was," she said quietly, "but not of you." Something in the way she said it made his breath catch. He turned the cup slowly in his hands, unsure why those words carried such weight. A gust of wind struck the cottage, rattling the shutters. The fire leapt. Friedrich flinched, dizzy from exhaustion. She noticed immediately. "Rest," she said. "You should not sit upright with that wound." He leaned back against the wall, eyes half closed. "Forgive me. I have not even given my name." "You need not." "I think I do," he murmured. "I am Friedrich von Hohenberg." Her hand froze mid-motion. The color drained from her face. "The prince," she whispered. He nodded faintly. "At least I was, before this storm made a fool of me." She seemed to struggle for composure, then lowered her head. "Your Highness, do not bow here," he said gently. "This house has no need for titles." But she still stood apart from him, her hands clasped tightly before her. The small warmth between them vanished under the weight of his name. "I did not mean to frighten you," he said. "You have shown me kindness no one else could. You should not have come here," she murmured. "This place is not meant for princes." He smiled faintly, though it hurt to move his lips. "Nor for storms. Yet both have found you." For the first time, a hint of a smile touched her mouth. She turned back to the fire, stirring it with a stick. The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. Outside, the storm howled louder. Inside, the flames danced higher. Friedrich's eyelids grew heavy. The warmth of the cottage wrapped around him like a fragile dream. He let himself drift for a moment, hearing only the soft sounds of her movements. When he opened his eyes again, the light had dimmed. The candle burned low. Annalisa sat near the hearth, her head bowed, humming softly, a tune he recognized, though he had not heard it since childhood. He frowned. "That song, where did you learn it?" She looked startled. "It was my mother's song. My mother used to sing the same," he said slowly. "Every night before I slept." Her gaze dropped to the floor. "Many mothers sing it, I suppose." Perhaps, but he knew better. That melody had belonged to one woman alone. Helena, Archduchess of Hohenberg, whose voice still lingered in his memories of winter nights long past. The thought unsettled him. He shifted in his seat and reached for another log. She rose quickly. "Let me." Their hands brushed as she took it from him. A spark leapt, not from the fire, but from that brief touch. He felt it like a pulse through his chest. She drew back, her breath caught. "I did not mean—" "Nor I," he said. "You have nothing to fear." But she did fear something. He could see it in her eyes, a flicker that was not about him, but about what she carried within herself. She knelt again, placing the log into the fire. As she reached forward, her sleeve slipped back, revealing her hand, and the faint glimmer of gold around her finger. Friedrich's eyes caught the light. His breath faltered. He leaned closer, unable to believe what he saw. "Where did you get that ring?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Annalisa froze. She followed his gaze, then slowly covered her hand. "This?" "Yes. Let me see it." "It is nothing, Your Highness." "A keepsake." He rose unsteadily to his feet, the dizziness forgotten. "A keepsake. That ring bears the royal crest of Hohenberg. It was my mother's." She did not move. "Then it must be another. Many rings look alike." "No." His tone sharpened. "That ring was buried with her. I remember the sapphire, the engraving inside. 'To thine own heart be true.'" Her eyes widened. "You know the inscription? I wrote it myself when I was a boy." His voice trembled. "Tell me, how did you come by it?" Annalisa backed away a step. "Please, Your Highness, you are mistaken. Do not lie to me." Her lips parted, as though to speak, but no words came. The firelight flickered across her face, revealing fear and something else. Grief. He took another step toward her, but his knees gave way. He caught himself against the table, panting. "Answer me, girl. That ring was buried with the queen. Annalise's voice broke. I did not steal it. Then how? It was given to me. By whom? She looked at him long and hard, her chest rising and falling. By one who wished to keep her promise. What promise? She did not answer. The room seemed to hold its breath. The storm outside thundered against the walls. Annalise, he said softly now, pleading rather than commanding. Please, if there is truth in this, I must know. She turned away, staring into the flames as if searching for courage there. Her hands trembled. You should not have come tonight, she whispered. The snow brought you here for a reason you will not wish to learn. What reason? To open what should have remained buried. He felt a chill colder than the wind outside. Who are you? I am no one, Your Highness. You are not. You carry my mother's ring. She looked down at her hand, the gold catching the firelight again. Then perhaps it was always meant to find its way home. He stared at her, his heart pounding. You speak in riddles. There are truths that cannot yet be spoken. Yet you wear proof of one before my eyes. The tension between them deepened. The fire cracked, throwing sparks. The storm screamed louder, as if urging confession. Finally she turned to him, eyes shining with unshed tears. If I tell you, you will not believe me. Try me. She drew a breath, but before she could speak, the door banged open. A blast of snow filled the room, extinguishing the candle. Friedrich turned, shielding his face from the cold. When he looked back, Annalise stood motionless in the dim firelight, the ring still gleaming faintly in her hand. He took one slow step forward. Who gave it to you? Her gaze lifted to his, full of quiet sorrow. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said the words that froze him where he stood. I have been waiting for you, Your Highness. The silence after her words was heavier than the storm itself. The wind moaned against the roof. But neither of them moved. Friedrich's breath came unsteady, his heart striking against his ribs. What do you mean? Waiting for me? He asked at last, his voice low. Annalise's eyes did not leave the fire. You should rest, Your Highness. You are weak. You will fall again if you do not sit. Answer me first. She hesitated, then took a trembling breath. I knew that one day you would come. My mother told me so. Your mother? Yes. Her gaze rose to meet his. She said a man would come through the snow, searching for what was lost, and that I must not turn him away. Friedrich stared at her, the words twisting inside him. And she gave you that ring? Annalise pressed her lips together. I cannot speak of it. You must, he insisted. That ring belongs to my mother. It vanished the night she died. How can it be here on your hand? Her voice faltered. It was left in my keeping. By whom? By one who loved your mother. He felt his patience snap. Enough riddles. Tell me the truth, girl. She looked as though she might cry, but instead she turned toward the door. If you wish to leave, I will guide you at dawn. You should not be here. I am not going anywhere until you explain yourself. Before she could reply, the wind roared again, shaking the shutters. Outside, faint voices called through the night. His name shouted through the storm. Friedrich turned sharply toward the sound. My men, he said. They found me. He started toward the door, but Annalise caught his arm. Wait, do not tell them about the ring. He frowned. Why not? They will not understand. They will think I... She stopped herself. They will think you what? That I stole it. Friedrich hesitated. The look in her eyes, frightened, pleading, pulled at him. I will tell them nothing until I know the truth, he said at last. The door burst open a moment later, and a rush of cold air filled the cottage. 2 soldiers appeared, their cloaks white with snow. Relief washed over their faces when they saw him. Your Highness! Thank heaven you live! I'm unharmed, Friedrich said. The carriage overturned. I found shelter here. The men glanced at Annalise, then back at him. A peasant girl, one murmured. She saved my life, he replied sharply. Show respect. They bowed stiffly, though suspicion lingered in their eyes. The Duke is on his way, one said. He rode from the lodge at first light when word reached him of your delay. My uncle? Friedrich said, startled. Why would he come himself? He feared for you, sire. He waits at the royal lodge now. Friedrich nodded. Very well. We leave when the storm lessens. He turned to Anneliese. You will come with us. Her head jerked up. No, your highness. I cannot. You can, and you will. I owe you my life. You will have shelter and safety there. Her lips parted to protest, but he had already given the order. Bring a spare cloak for her, he told the guards. We depart as soon as the path clears. When the men left to prepare the horses, Anneliese turned to him in despair. Please let me stay. I belong to no one. I have no wish to stand before your court. You are not a prisoner, he said gently. You will be honored. Her eyes filled with quiet dread. Honored, she whispered. That is not what they will do to me. Then I will protect you. You do not know them. He drew himself upright. They are my people, and my word is law. She shook her head, but said no more. At dawn, the storm began to fade. The world outside was white and blinding, the air sharp with ice. The soldiers led out 3 horses. Friedrich mounted, still weak, but determined. Anneliese rode behind one of the guards, her small frame swallowed by a cloak too large for her. They reached the hunting lodge by midday, a grand stone building nestled among snow-laden pines. Smoke rose from its chimneys, the royal crest hung above its gates. Servants rushed forward as soon as the prince dismounted. The great hall glowed with firelight. A tall man in a fur-lined coat approached. Duke Alaric von Hohenberg, Friedrich's uncle and regent. His dark hair, streaked with silver, framed a face both noble and severe. Friedrich, the duke exclaimed, embracing him briefly. You gave us all a fright. I am well, Friedrich said. A peasant girl found me and kept me alive. Alaric's eyes turned toward Anneliese, who stood uncertainly near the door. Indeed, he said slowly. How fortunate. She will be treated with respect, Friedrich added. See that she is given food and rest. The duke studied her for a long moment. Of course, his smile did not reach his eyes. But first, tell me, nephew, how came you to lose your carriage in such weather? An accident, Friedrich said shortly. The horses panicked. I see. The duke's tone was mild, but his gaze lingered on the girl again. And this young woman, did she take anything from the wreck? No, Friedrich said. She took me in when I was half dead from the cold. Commendable. The duke walked closer to Anneliese. What is your name, child? Anneliese, your grace. You know who you stand before? Yes, my lord. And yet you show no fear. Her chin lifted slightly. Fear is no virtue. The duke's brows rose. Bold words for a woodcutter's daughter. She speaks the truth, Friedrich said sharply, and she has earned my trust. The duke smiled faintly. Then I shall trust her as well, until I have reason not to. A servant entered, whispering something into his ear. Alaric's gaze darkened. Nephew, may I have a word alone? Friedrich glanced at Anneliese. You may go with the servants. Rest. She curtsied slightly and followed a maid from the hall, though her eyes darted once toward him as if to plead for something unsaid. When the doors closed, the duke turned to his nephew. You bring a stranger into the royal lodge during a time when every eye watches us. Why? I told you. She saved me. And nothing else? No strange behavior? No questions about your family? Friedrich frowned. You sound as if you suspect her of something. I suspect everyone, until they prove themselves clean of deceit. That is a grim way to live. It is the way that keeps a crown on one's head. Friedrich sighed, exhausted. She is harmless. She lives alone in the forest. Then perhaps she has had too much time to wander where she should not, the duke said softly. The graveyards lie near those woods. Friedrich's head snapped up. What are you implying? Only that thieves do not always steal for gold. Enough, Friedrich said coldly. I will hear no insult against her. The duke's smile returned, but colder now. As you wish. I will have her story written down before she leaves. She is not to be interrogated. Of course not. Merely questioned. When Friedrich left the hall, his thoughts were restless. He found Anneliese in a small chamber near the servants' quarters, sitting by a window. She rose as he entered. "They treat you well?" he asked. "Yes, Your Highness." "Good." He paced once across the room, unsure how to begin. "My uncle doubts you." "I know," she said quietly. "He has reason." "What reason?" "He sees the ring." Friedrich stopped. "He saw it?" She nodded. "When the servant brought food, it caught the light. I saw his eyes change." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Then hide it, for your own sake." "I cannot," she said. "It is all I have left." "Then at least keep it from sight. He is not a man who forgives mysteries." She looked at him, her face pale. "Will you believe me if I tell you I did not steal it?" "I want to," he said honestly. "But I must know how you came to possess it." She hesitated. "If I speak, they will punish me. I will not let that happen." Her lips parted, but before she could answer, a sharp knock sounded. The door opened without permission. The Duke stood there, flanked by 2 guards. "Forgive the intrusion," Alaric said smoothly, "but there is a matter that cannot wait." "What matter?" Friedrich asked. "The ring." Annalisa stiffened. The Duke stepped forward. "Show it to me, child." She glanced at Friedrich, who gave a faint nod. Reluctantly, she held out her hand. The sapphire glimmered in the light. The Duke took it between 2 fingers, inspecting the crest. His expression hardened. "This is the royal seal," he said. "It was buried with Helena of Hohenberg. How do you possess it?" Annalisa's voice trembled. "It was given to me." "By whom?" "I cannot say." The Duke laughed softly. "Cannot, or will not?" Friedrich stepped between them. "Enough, uncle. You have your answer. Do you believe this story?" "I believe she speaks the truth." "Then you are blind." The Duke turned to the guards. "Take her to the West Chamber. She will remain there until I decide what to do." "No," Friedrich said. "She stays under my protection." "This is not a request, nephew. Until we know the truth, she is a suspect." Annalisa's eyes widened. "I am no thief." "Then tell us where you found it." "I swore not to." The Duke's tone turned icy. "To whom did you swear, girl?" She looked at Friedrich helplessly. "Please, I cannot break my word." "That silence condemns you," Alaric said. "Guards." The men moved forward. Friedrich caught the Duke's arm. "I forbid this. You forget who governs until you are crowned," the Duke said smoothly. "Your father entrusted me with your safety, not with your consent." Friedrich's jaw tightened. "You will answer for this?" "Perhaps. But for now, she will answer to me." Annalisa was led away. She did not resist, though her gaze lingered on the prince. "Do not come for me," she whispered as she passed. "Not yet." He watched her go, anger burning behind his calm. That night he could not sleep. The wind had stilled, but his thoughts stormed. He paced the floor, torn between duty and the strange loyalty he felt toward her. His uncle's words echoed in his mind. "The graveyards lie near those woods." He left his chamber quietly and went to the corridor leading to the west wing. The guards at her door bowed as he approached. "Your Highness?" "I will see her," he said. "By the Duke's order." "By mine," Friedrich interrupted, his voice hardening. The men hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside, the room was dim. Annalisa sat by the window, her face lit by the moon. She rose when he entered. "I told you not to come," she whispered. "And I told you I would protect you," he said. "He has no right to hold you here." She shook her head. "He will not let you free me. Then I will find another way. Tell me what he wants. What is he after?" Her eyes filled with quiet sorrow. "Not the ring. The truth it carries." "What truth?" She looked down at her hands. "About your mother." He felt the ground shift beneath him. "What do you know of her?" "Only what my mother told me. And that is why I cannot speak." "Then she knew my mother?" Annalisa nodded slowly. "She served her once. Long ago." The air between them tightened. "Why did you not tell me this before?" "Because I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid you would see me as he does." He reached for her hand through the bars of shadow. "I see you as the one who saved my life." Her eyes glistened. "Then save your own now. Leave this place before he turns his doubt against you. I will not leave you here. You must. He opened his mouth to answer, but a sudden noise behind him made him turn. Footsteps approached rapidly down the corridor. He backed away from her, the door swinging open. A soldier stood there, breathless. Your Highness, he said, the Duke requests you at once. It concerns your mother's tomb. Friedrich stared at him. Her tomb. Yes, sire. It has been disturbed. Annaliese's face went white. No, she breathed. Friedrich turned to her sharply. What do you know of this? She said nothing, only pressed her hands to her heart. The guard looked between them uneasily. The Duke awaits you, my lord. Friedrich followed the man down the hall, the words ringing in his ears, echoing with dread. Behind him, Anneliese sank to her knees, whispering a single sentence that no one heard but the night itself. They will blame me for what they have done. The morning came pale and breathless. The snow had stopped falling, but the air was sharp with silence. Friedrich rode beside his uncle toward the chapel at the edge of the estate, a cold dread settling deeper with each step. The soldiers followed behind, their boots crunching on the frozen path. The chapel stood half buried in snow, its door forced open. Inside, torches burned low. The marble floor was marked with dark streaks of mud where the soldiers had walked. The tomb of the late Archduchess, Helena, lay open, the stone lid pushed aside. Friedrich's breath caught. Who did this? Alaric motioned to the captain. No one knows, sire. We found it at dawn. Nothing has been taken, the Duke said softly. Except perhaps what was already missing. Friedrich's gaze snapped toward him. You speak of the ring. Indeed. You see now, my nephew, what that girl's silence means. Someone disturbed the Queen's grave to hide their theft, and she alone carries proof of it. She said she did not steal it. Thieves always say that. Friedrich turned away, unable to bear the sight. His mother's tomb had been sacred ground. Now it lay broken open, the scent of cold stone rising from within. Close it, he ordered. Seal it again. The men obeyed, though their movements were slow, uneasy. When the lid was set back in place, Friedrich stood for a long moment, then turned to his uncle. I will speak with her again. Alone? The Duke asked. Yes. Alaric's eyes narrowed. Be careful that her lies do not cloud your judgment. They already have, Friedrich said quietly, for I can no longer tell who among us speaks the truth. He left the chapel and made his way toward the small forest behind the lodge. He knew she would not have fled far. The snow still bore her tracks from the night before. He followed them past the frozen stream and into a grove where an old chapel ruin stood, its roof half fallen, the walls overgrown with frost and ivy. There she was, kneeling before an unmarked grave, her cloak dusted with snow. She turned as he approached, her face pale but calm. I knew you would come, she said softly. What grave is this? She looked down at the mound of snow. My mother's. He stopped short. Your mother lies here? Yes. She died when I was 16. She asked to be buried near the woman she served. The woman she served? Your mother, the Archduchess Helena. Friedrich's voice faltered. You lie. I do not. My mother was her maid, though few knew her name. Martha Bauer. She followed your mother from Vienna to this valley after your father sent her away. Friedrich's throat tightened. My father sent my mother away because she was ill. No, Anneliese said gently. Because she knew something that could have destroyed him. He felt as though the ground shifted beneath him. What are you saying? She lifted her eyes to his. On the night your mother died, my mother was with her. She saw what happened. She heard her final words, and before dawn, she was told to disappear. By whom? Anneliese hesitated. By the man who feared her most. Say his name. Her gaze dropped to the snow. The Duke. The word fell like a stone between them. Friedrich shook his head. That is impossible. He loved her. He wept beside me at her funeral. He wept for the crown, not for her, Anneliese said quietly. My mother told me he came to her chambers that night. They argued. She accused him of betraying your father. Before she could speak further, she fell. Some said her heart failed. My mother said the truth was hidden beneath silence. Friedrich pressed a hand to his forehead. No, I cannot believe this. She gave her ring to my mother before she died, Annalisa continued. Said that one day her son would come searching for it, and when he did, it must be returned. That was all. No explanation. Only a promise. He looked at her, torn between rage and disbelief. You expect me to think my uncle capable of such a thing? I expect nothing, she said simply. I tell only what was told to me. The wind whispered through the trees, scattering flakes of snow across the grave. Friedrich turned away, his thoughts burning. Why did you not tell me sooner? Because you would not have believed me. You are right, he said bitterly. I still struggle to. She stepped closer. You do not have to believe me. Only look at the fear in his eyes when he sees the ring. He remembered the moment the Duke first noticed it. The tightening jaw, the sudden stillness. Yes, there had been fear there. What do you wish of me? He asked. Nothing, she said. Only that you guard yourself, and perhaps one day guard the truth. He turned to her again. And you? What will you do now? I will return to my cottage when they let me. My mother's grave is here. I cannot leave it. They will not let you go, he said. He will keep you close until he knows what you know. Then let him, she whispered. I have nothing left to hide. He studied her face, the calm in her eyes, the courage that seemed to grow from sorrow itself. You are not what you seem, he said softly. Nor are you, Your Highness. You were born into chains you do not see. Her words struck him deeper than she knew. They walked back together through the snow, neither speaking. When the lodge came into view, a line of soldiers stood at the gate. The Duke waited at the top of the steps, his expression unreadable. So, you found her? Alaric said. How fortunate. She was mourning her mother, Friedrich said. Ah, the late Martha Bauer, the Duke replied smoothly. A name I have not heard in years. Friedrich stiffened. You knew her? She served your mother well, the Duke said. A shame she died in poverty. Perhaps that is why her daughter has grown bitter. Annalisa said nothing. Her eyes stayed fixed on the snow. The Duke's tone hardened. You will remain here until the matter of the tomb is settled. I will not have grave robbers wandering free. She is no thief, Friedrich said sharply. Then she has nothing to fear. The soldiers led her inside once more. Friedrich followed, but the Duke caught his arm. Let her be, he said quietly. Every prince must learn when to stop digging. The past has teeth. Friedrich pulled away. You fear only that I will find them. Find what? The Duke asked, with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Ghosts? My dear boy, the dead cannot speak. Then perhaps I shall speak for them, Friedrich said, and walked away. That night, sleep refused him again. The image of the open tomb, the ring, Annalisa's steady eyes, they haunted him. He left his chamber near midnight and went to the library. There, by the dim glow of the fire, he searched through his mother's old books, the ones kept locked away since her death. Most were prayer books, their pages fragile and yellow. But in one, hidden between the covers, lay something unexpected, a pressed white flower and a folded letter sealed with his mother's crest. His hands shook as he broke the seal. My son, the letter began. If this should ever reach you, know that truth lives longer than fear. I am betrayed by one who shares our blood. Do not seek vengeance, seek light. I leave my ring in trust to the hands of a servant who loves you as her own. When you find her, listen. Through her, you will know the truth. Friedrich read the lines twice, scarcely breathing. His mother had known she would die. She had known who would cause it, and had placed her faith in the daughter of her maid. He closed the letter, his heart pounding. Annalisa's face rose in his mind, her fear, her silence, her unwavering honesty. She had carried this burden for years, protecting a truth meant for him alone. He stood abruptly and went to her chamber. The guards at her door straightened as he approached. I will see her, he said. She sleeps, Your Highness. Wake her. They obeyed without question. Inside, Annalisa sat up as he entered, her eyes wide. What has happened? He held out the letter. My mother wrote this before she died. She hesitated before taking it. Her hands trembled as she read. When she finished, Tears shone in her eyes. She remembered. She whispered. She remembered my mother. Friedrich sat beside her. You have carried this secret alone. Why? Because I was told to wait until you were ready to hear it, she said, and because I feared what would happen if others knew. The Duke, he said. She nodded. He sent word that night to silence everyone in the palace. My mother escaped only because your mother gave her the ring and ordered her to flee. She said it would be your protection one day. Friedrich's hands clenched. And you think he killed her? I know only that she died the night she defied him. He rose and began to pace. If this is true, everything changes. Yes, she said quietly. And that is why he will not let you prove it. He stopped and turned to her. Then we must find proof stronger than words. How? He looked toward the window, where the faint outline of the chapel roof glimmered under moonlight. If he feared her secret, he must have left some trace. A letter, a record, something hidden when she fell from favor. Annalisa rose. If you search, he will know. Let him, Friedrich said. The storm outside has passed, but the one between us has just begun. He reached for the door, but she caught his hand. Friedrich, she said softly, be careful. He will destroy what he cannot control. Her touch lingered a heartbeat longer than it should. When he met her eyes, he saw both fear and strength. Then he will find I am not so easily controlled, he said. He left her room with the letter hidden beneath his coat. The corridor was dark, the silence heavy. But from somewhere down the hall came the faint sound of footsteps, measured, deliberate, following him. He turned sharply, but saw only shadows. At the corner of the hall, he found the Duke waiting, dressed as though for travel. Still awake, nephew? Alaric asked lightly. The hour grows late. I might say the same of you, Friedrich replied. The Duke smiled. I sleep lightly when secrets stir. What secrets? Those that walk the corridors at night carrying forbidden letters. Friedrich's heart thudded. You followed me. I protect you, the Duke said. From those who whisper poison into your ear. Her words are not poison. They will be, once she speaks them in court. Friedrich's hand closed around the letter inside his coat. You cannot stop the truth forever. The Duke's eyes glinted. Truth is what the crown declares it to be. Not anymore, Friedrich said. Not while I live. The Duke inclined his head slightly, his voice smooth. Then let us hope you live long enough to prove it. He turned and walked away, his cloak sweeping across the floor. Friedrich watched him go, the words echoing like a curse. He returned to his chamber and locked the door. The fire burned low. He unfolded his mother's letter once more, reading the final line beneath the seal. When the snow returns, so will the truth. He looked out the window. Beyond the forest, clouds were gathering again, thick and heavy, like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. And in the shadows of the corridor, unseen by him, a servant slipped away toward the Duke's quarters, carrying word of the prince's discovery. The next morning broke with the sound of bells echoing through the valley. A pale sun glimmered weakly through drifting clouds, and the air carried that strange stillness that comes after truth has been spoken, but before the world knows what to do with it. Friedrich stood at the window of his chamber, the letter open on the table behind him, his thoughts burning as fiercely as the fire that had long since turned to embers. A knock came at the door. He did not turn. Enter, he said. Annalisa stepped inside. She looked weary but calm, her cloak drawn close around her. The guards had allowed her to leave her room at his order, but the tension in the lodge was thick enough to taste. Everyone whispered about her. The peasant girl, the ring, the open tomb. He motioned for her to sit. Did they treat you well? As well as they dare, your highness. He smiled faintly. Friedrich. Call me Friedrich. I am tired of being a title. She hesitated. You forget who you are. No, he said quietly. For the first time I remember. He gestured toward the table. My mother's letter proves what you told me. The Duke feared her. He silenced her. And she trusted your mother with the only proof that could outlive him. Annalisa's eyes filled with sorrow. Then it is time for the world to know. He nodded. Today, in the chapel, before the court. She drew a sharp breath. He will be there. Yes, he said. And he will listen. The chapel was already crowded when they entered. Servants and officers lined the walls, whispering as the prince and the peasant girl walked side by side. At the altar, Duke Alaric stood in his black coat, one hand resting on the rail, his expression serene. "My nephew," he said, his tone smooth. "You summon us early. Have you uncovered the truth behind last night's disturbance?" Friedrich stopped before him. "I have." "Excellent. Then let us hear it." He turned to the assembly, his voice carrying through the chamber. "My mother's tomb was not disturbed by thieves. It was opened by those who feared her final words. I have found a letter she wrote before she died. It reveals that she was betrayed by one of her own household." A murmur spread through the crowd. The Duke's smile did not waver. "And which unfortunate soul bears such an accusation?" Friedrich faced him. "You, uncle." The silence that followed was complete. The Duke blinked once, then laughed softly. "You accuse your own blood of treason and murder? On the word of a peasant girl?" "On the word of my mother," Friedrich said, "and on the ring she entrusted to her servant, to guard until I came of age." He turned to Annalisa, who stepped forward, trembling but unafraid. She held out her hand, the sapphire ring glimmering in the light. Gasps rippled through the hall. "This ring," Friedrich said, "was given by my mother to Martha Bauer, the woman who saved it from being buried with her. And this," he lifted the letter, "is her final testimony." The Duke's smile thinned. "A convenient story, a letter conveniently found. You would call my mother a liar? I would call her words unproven. Where is her seal, her witnesses?" "Here," Friedrich said, holding up the folded page. "And here, in the eyes of the woman whose mother carried her secret until death." The Duke's voice sharpened. "You place the honor of your family in the hands of a stranger. I place it in the hands of truth." The Duke's composure flickered for the first time. "You think you can destroy me with a story told by a servant?" "No," Friedrich said softly. "You destroyed yourself the night you silenced my mother." The court watched, frozen. The Duke's jaw tightened. The elegant calm that had always surrounded him began to crack. "You do not understand the world you were born into," he said. "Your mother would have ruined the crown. I protected it." Friedrich stared at him. "By killing her?" The Duke's face went pale. "By ensuring her peace." The words hung in the air like smoke. The assembly gasped. The captain of the guard stepped forward uncertainly, as if unsure whether to bow or draw his sword. Friedrich took a slow breath. "Then it is true." The Duke seemed to realize what he had said. "You twist my meaning. I do not need to. You confessed it yourself." He looked toward the guards. "Escort the Duke to his chambers." "He will remain there until the council decides his fate." The Duke turned sharply. "You cannot imprison me. I am regent." "Not anymore." Friedrich's voice was calm but final. "Your power ended the day you broke your oath to protect this family." The Duke's eyes blazed. "You are a fool, Friedrich. You think the truth will set you free, but it will destroy you. The court will never forgive a scandal like this." "Then let it judge me," Friedrich said. "I have nothing left to fear." The Duke was led away, silent now, his steps echoing down the long aisle. The doors closed behind him. When the last sound faded, Friedrich turned to Annalisa. "It is done." She stood still, her hands trembling slightly. "You have freed her memory." "And yours," he said gently. Tears filled her eyes. "It was never mine. I only carried it until it reached you." "Then let me carry something for you now," he said. "You have borne grief long enough." She shook her head. "You do not owe me anything. On the contrary," he said quietly. "You gave me my mother's voice back. Without you, I would still be blind." The crowd slowly dispersed, their murmurs fading into the corridors. By the time the last servant left, only the two of them remained in the chapel. The firelight flickered on the altar, reflecting faintly off the ring on her hand. "Do you know," he said after a long silence, "when I first saw you in that cottage, I thought the storm had sent me there by accident. Now I think it was her doing." Annalisa looked up at him. "Your mother's?" "Yes. As if she waited for me to find you." She smiled faintly, though her eyes shone with tears. "Then she was kinder to you than fate was to me." He reached for her hand, hesitating only a moment before taking it. "Fate has not finished with us yet." She let him hold it, her voice barely a whisper. "What will happen now?" "I will speak to the council," he said. "The Duke will resign. The truth will be recorded, not hidden. The crown will stand on honesty, not fear. And me, you will stay here. As my guest. As your prisoner, you mean? As the one person I can trust," he said. "If I lose that, I lose everything." She looked at him for a long time, as if searching for the man behind the crown. "You trust too easily." "I have trusted too little," he said, "but not with you." The wind sighed outside the chapel walls. She turned away, her hand slipping from his. "You should not speak so." "Why?" "Because you are a prince, and I am nothing." He took a step closer. "You are everything that kept me alive when the world turned cold." She shook her head, tears spilling over. "You cannot mean that." "I do. My life began again the moment I saw you by that fire." She tried to speak, but no words came. Her lips trembled. She turned her face away, and for a long moment, there was only the sound of their breathing. At last she said, "Even if you meant it, your world would never allow it." "Then I will change my world," he said softly. Her eyes widened, but she said nothing. He took her hand again, gently this time, as though it were a fragile thing. "You do not have to answer now," he whispered. "But know this. The storm that brought me to you did not end with snow. It ended here, with you." The chapel doors opened suddenly. The captain of the guard entered, bowing low. "Your Highness, the council requests your presence." Friedrich nodded, releasing her hand. "Tell them I will come." When the guard left, he turned to her once more. "Will you stay?" "I will." He smiled faintly. "Then I have nothing to fear." He left her there, standing by the altar, her hands clasped before her. She watched him go, her heart full of something too deep for words. Later that evening, the lodge fell quiet. The Duke's apartments were sealed, the council in session. In the corridor outside, the servants whispered that the regent had confessed to all. Friedrich found Anneliese again in the small chapel near the forest, the same place where her mother rested. She had lit 2 candles, one for her mother and one for the queen. The snow outside had begun to melt, dripping from the eaves like tears. He approached quietly. "You are praying for peace," she said. "For them both. They have it now," he said. "It is we who must find ours." She looked up. "And have you?" "Not yet, but I'm closer." He reached into his coat and drew out the ring, holding it between his fingers. "This no longer belongs to me," he said. "It belongs to you. You kept it safe when no one else could." She shook her head. "I cannot take it." "Then keep it as a promise," he said, "that the truth she died for will never be buried again." She took it slowly, her hand trembling. "You honor her more than she ever hoped." "I honor you both," he said softly. They stood there for a long time, neither speaking. The light from the candles trembled across their faces. At last she whispered, "What will you tell the world about me?" "The truth," he said. "That you were the one who saved a prince from the snow, and a kingdom from silence." She smiled through her tears. "That is more than I deserve." He took her hand again, holding it firmly this time. "No, Anneliese, it is less." She looked down, their fingers entwined. The fire of the candles cast a soft glow around them, and for the first time since the storm, the silence felt warm. Neither noticed the snow beginning to fall again outside, soft flakes drifting like blessings over the graves and the lodge and the forest that had once nearly taken his life. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet but steady. "Stay until spring." "Why?" "Because I cannot face it without you." She closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Until spring, then." He smiled faintly. "And after that, we shall see." For the first time since his mother's death, peace settled in his heart. Outside, the wind changed direction, gentle now, carrying the faint promise of renewal. The candles flickered once, and steadied, and somewhere deep within the forest, beneath the thawing snow, a single white flower began to bloom. Spring arrived as quietly as forgiveness. The snows retreated down the mountains, and green touched the meadows like a memory returning to life. At the royal lodge, the air no longer smelled of fear, but of pine and thawing earth. The Duke had gone into exile, leaving behind silence instead of threats. Friedrich had been crowned in Vienna weeks earlier, but he had returned to the valley almost at once. His place, he said, was where truth had begun again. He walked now through the gardens that bordered the forest, the hem of his coat brushing against the wet grass. Servants bowed as he passed, but he scarcely noticed them. His eyes searched for the one figure he truly wished to see. Annalisa was by the chapel, tending the small bed of flowers that had sprouted beside her mother's grave. The morning light caught her hair, now unbound, and the soft wind moved it across her face. She looked up when she heard his steps. "You should not be out here without your cloak," he said, smiling. "The spring sun lies. It warms only to deceive." "I like the chill," she replied. "It reminds me that winter was real." He stopped beside her, watching as she brushed soil from her hands. "And yet, you've coaxed life from it." "It was always there," she said. "It only needed time to wake." He looked around at the blooming garden. "Then perhaps we both needed that." She smiled faintly, but there was hesitation in her eyes. "You will return to Vienna soon." "I will," he said, "but not alone." Her hands stilled. "You mean to bring your court back here?" "No," he said, turning toward her. "I mean to bring you." She looked at him, startled. "You cannot." "I can," he said simply, "and I will. The people already know your story. They call you the guardian of the Queen's truth. That title is kindness, not acceptance," she said softly. "They will never see me as their equal." "I do not ask them to," he replied. "I ask them to see me as I am, with you beside me." Her breath caught. "Friedrich," he took her hand gently, his voice low. "You think I have forgotten who I am, but I remember too well. I remember a boy who lost his mother to silence. I remember a man who found his soul in a storm, and I remember the woman who held out her hand and saved him." She shook her head, tears brightening her eyes. "You speak of gratitude, not love." "No," he said. "I speak of love that grew from gratitude, as spring grows from winter. It began when you gave me shelter and has not ceased since." She drew a trembling breath. "If you say such words in Vienna, they will mock you." "Then let them," he said. "I have endured worse for less truth." She tried to turn away, but he caught her hand again, firmer this time. "Look at me." She did. "You gave me back my mother," he said. "Let me give you back your life. No walls, no secrets, no shame. I cannot erase the past, but I can build something new." Her tears fell silently. "You would make me a queen? I would make you my wife." Her voice broke. "You cannot mean it." He smiled faintly. "I have never meant anything more." She pressed her hands to her face, unable to speak. He waited, saying nothing, only watching her with quiet certainty. When she finally lowered her hands, her eyes were full of wonder. "You are mad. Entirely," he said. "Mad with the thought of a life without you." She laughed through her tears. "You would throw away the comfort of every noble house in Austria for a peasant girl. I would throw away every house for a single honest heart." He lifted her hand to his lips. She trembled, not from fear, but from the rush of feeling that seemed to pour from him into her. "Say yes," he whispered. "Not for the crown, not for the name, but for the man who stands before you." She looked at him for a long time, her heart warring with doubt and hope. Then she whispered, "Yes." He smiled, but no words came. He simply pulled her into his arms, and the quiet of the garden wrapped around them. The wind moved through the trees like a sigh of relief. They stood together for a long time before he spoke again. "We will be married here where it began. I want the forest to remember that the storm did not win." She laughed softly. "You speak as though it has a memory." "It does," he said. "It remembers everything. The crash of the carriage, the light in your window, and the man who nearly lost his soul before finding it at your hearth." "Then let it remember that I was terrified," she said, smiling. "Of what?" "Of you." He looked surprised. "Of me?" "Yes. A prince bleeding at my door was not what I expected when I prayed for a quiet night." He laughed, a sound freer than she had ever heard from him. "Then I shall spend the rest of my life making amends for the fright I caused. That may take some time." "I have time enough," he said. "An entire lifetime if you will share it." They walked back toward the lodge together, their hands still joined. The path wound through the trees, the snow gone, except for a few pale traces that melted beneath their steps. At the lodge, the household gathered to greet them. The news spread faster than either of them expected. Servants whispered, then smiled, then hurried to prepare as though the wedding had already been announced. By nightfall, the small chapel near the forest glowed with candlelight. The ceremony was simple. Friedrich wore no crown, only a single golden band on his hand. Anneliese wore a dress of soft ivory, her hair braided with tiny white flowers. When she walked down the aisle, the people bowed not to her birth, but to her courage. When the vows were spoken, the priest's voice trembled. "Do you, Prince Friedrich, take this woman?" "I do," Friedrich said, before the question had fully ended. "And do you, Anneliese Bauer, take this man?" She smiled through tears. "I already have." Laughter rippled through the hall. The priest nodded, smiling himself. "Then let no storm separate what truth has joined." When they kissed, the bells rang again across the valley. Afterward, they walked outside into the cool night. The stars hung low, bright and still. The air smelled of pine and spring. Friedrich lifted her hand, studying the ring that had begun it all. "It is strange," he said. "This was once a symbol of loss. And now it means I am found." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Your mother would be proud. She would be proud of you," he said softly. "She always believed kindness could save what power could not." They walked down toward the forest edge, where the first flowers of spring had pushed through the soil. The moonlight silvered everything, the trees, the chapel roof, the small brook that whispered nearby. Anneliese knelt to touch one of the flowers. "It's the same kind that grew by my mother's grave," she said. "Then they are hers," Friedrich murmured. "She sends them to remind us she is watching." She looked up at him. "Do you think so?" "I know so." For a while, they said nothing more. The quiet was enough. In the weeks that followed, life at the lodge changed. The people of the valley came to celebrate the union not as scandal, but as renewal. Friedrich refused grand ceremonies in Vienna. Instead, he opened the royal gardens to the villagers and declared the day of his wedding a yearly feast in honor of truth and compassion. Anneliese moved through her new world with the same humility she had shown in her cottage. She met each noble with courtesy, but never pretense. When the ladies whispered of her manners, she only smiled and answered with grace that silenced them all. Friedrich watched her often, still half in awe. One evening, as they stood on the terrace overlooking the valley, he said, "Do you remember the night I first saw you?" "How could I forget?" she said. "You looked as though the storm had carved you from ice, and you looked like the fire that would melt it." She laughed softly. "You exaggerate, my lord." "Not nearly enough," he said, taking her hand. "You gave warmth to a man who had none left. I think I loved you before I even knew your name." She touched his face gently. "You were cold and stubborn and bleeding. It took courage to love you then." He smiled. "And yet you did." "Yes," she said. "I suppose I did." The sun sank behind the mountains, painting the sky in gold. He drew her closer, his voice low. "Every winter ends, Anneliese. But I hope ours never fades entirely. Without it, I would never have found you." "Perhaps it will stay," she said, "in memory, not in pain." He kissed her then, a slow, certain kiss that carried all the words they no longer needed to say. The bells from the chapel chimed again in the distance, softer this time, as if echoing their hearts. Later, as they walked hand in hand back toward the lodge, the villagers lit torches along the path. Children laughed, tossing petals at their feet. Old men bowed and women smiled through tears. At the steps of the lodge, Friedrich turned to the crowd. "There was a time," he said, his voice clear, "when this ring belonged to sorrow. Today it belongs to hope. Let every soul who hears my words remember. No truth is too small to save a kingdom." The people cheered, their voices carrying far into the night. Anneliese looked at him with quiet pride. "You speak like a man who has walked through storms." "I have," he said, "and you were the light that led me home." They entered the lodge together, the doors closing softly behind them. The night deepened, the stars shimmered, and the last snow on the peaks turned silver under the moon. In the silence that followed, the forest seemed to breathe again, alive, forgiving, eternal. And when morning came, the first rays of sunlight fell upon the valley, touching the chapel, the graves, and the hands of the prince and his bride as they stood by the window, their fingers intertwined, watching the dawn rise over the land that had finally found peace. Thank you so much for listening to this story, all the way to the end. We hope it moved you as much as it moved us while telling it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment, telling us where you're listening from and what you liked the most. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like as a show of support. That really motivates us to keep creating and sharing more stories full of emotion and life lessons. And before we go, we want to remind you that an exciting and heartwarming story recommendation will appear on the final screen. If you'd like to enjoy it, just click on the video. Thank you once again for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.